Hello, welcome to segment 4 of remote assessment. In this segment, we will focus on feedback in remote instruction. Now, things get a little different when we can't be face-to-face with our students. A lot of the strategies we have used in the past for feedback are no longer possible. So, we need to adapt and hone our processes so that we can be effective in either situation. To do so, we can use tech features, including comments, messages, rubrics, and even audio and video. We also have the ability to lighten the load by sharing the work, putting some of the onus on students, and incorporating whoever else might be available to provide this feedback. So these are some of the things we're going to look at in this video and in this segment in general. If you go to our Remote Instruction Bootcamp site and the Remote Assessment page, scroll down to the bottom to segment 4, and you can access the key considerations and resources section of our doc. When you do, you'll come to this segment, and I've included a number of links and resources that you can reference to help you with some of these features. So to think about what we've covered in previous segments, in case you didn't watch or participate in those, we already have a number of feedback features available in our formative assessment tools, like this in Go Formative, where we can prompt students, do you think you got it right? And then include a website for them to self-assess and check if they got it right, and then update their answer. Similarly, in Google Forms, where you can put a link to a website for incorrect answers, and students can go back and try to correct their thinking and do that process without having to interact with you. But we know that that's not sufficient for all situations. So I'm going to close these out, and I'm going to go through a process in Google Classroom that will help you think about your own workflow and how you might approach direct feedback with you and your students, and/or enlist others to help provide it. So I'm in my Google class here, and I'm going to go into this assignment that I'm calling a check-in assignment. As a former English teacher, I regularly realized that students weren't keeping up with the pace that I had set out for them. So one idea that you can do is do check-in assignments at certain steps in your task. So my instructions for this were to complete the first 2 sections of your assignment for feedback. And what I did was create this rubric for this assignment, as well as make a copy of the document for students. So when I view this assignment, I can see all the documents for my students, even if they haven't started it yet. So when I click into the first one, here's what my view looks like. Many of you are familiar with this. It's not new news, but you may not have used rubrics in the past. So when you do include a rubric, this is what it looks like over here. So you can quickly score it. If you need to expand your criteria, you can here. And then change your score if you want to. Then when I collapse it, it goes back to this view. And I can also add the private comments. So a lot of ways that I can provide feedback just within this bar. Additionally, adding document comments helps a lot too. So if you highlight a word or phrases, there's a number of ways you can add a comment. You can click this button up here, or you can see Control plus Alt plus M is the keyboard shortcut. So when I press that, here it is. And a couple things that I can do, if I use the @ symbol, I can mention somebody else. So if I wanted to mention another student, let's say my buddy Ron Houtman, I could ask him to provide some input to the student. Or say, what do you think about this? Or this reminds me of something that you're working on. Otherwise, I can just write a normal comment like explain. And one thing that you can do is add links to your comments. So if you want to give them a link to follow, then it will automatically hyperlink for them. Google Classroom also has this nice little feature called a comment bank. So if there are regularly used comments, you can create those ahead of time. And then when you want to use one of them, Control Alt M, when you hit the hashtag button, it brings up those comments here. So I can just click on that, and now that comment goes to my student. and I don't have to type it. I just have to type the hashtag, click, and move on. There's an efficiency there that will help you to move through your scoring and be able to grade and provide feedback without losing your entire life. So to move on to other students, I just click this arrow and I'm on to my next document. And the flow, once you get used to it especially, can be pretty quick. One option available to you as well is a Chrome extension called Moat. So you can see my little purple circle up here. Once you add that and log into your Moat account, that allows you to give audio comments. So if I highlight that and start my comment, I can click on this. And then when I sign in and record my comment, I can give an audio overview of what I want them to do. This is what it looks like for the student. Students don't have to upload or download the Moat extension, but you will want to check with your IT team to make sure that the website is not blocked. So when they click on that link, they go right to the Moat page, and then they can listen to and or read, because it's transcribed, your audio comment. I included additional ideas on our guide doc about how you can use video feedback in Flipgrid. You can also use Zoom, Google Meet, or screencasting tools if those work for you too, or if the situation calls for it. I also put a note to not forget about email and phone calls because those can still be effective in some situations too. One other thing I want to draw attention to are some of these self-assessment and reflection examples. The self-directed doc could be used as is, or you can modify it for students to understand what the target is. You provide some resources, or they can provide their own. How are they going to get there? And then ways that they'll show how they learned it. So this is kind of like a student empowerment process, but they are going to self-assess on how well they did based on the evidence that they have. And then you have a place for your own comments here as well. There's also this emoji self-assessment, which could work for younger grades or even older grades. So how do you feel about your level of understanding? What's your evidence? And you as a teacher could put in a spot for comments or use the commenting feature in Google Docs. I'll leave it to you to think creatively about what's going to work best for your situation. Your task for this segment is to practice with one or more of these tools or ideas and summarize how you might use that in the coming year or beyond the coming year. If you do create a resource, please paste that link as well, as I'd love to see it. I have a lot to work through, a lot of possibilities here. You can start honing your process now, and hopefully this will help you give better feedback now and in the coming days. Thanks.